Former prosecutor, is that breaking the law?
Former prosecutor and judge, and what I can tell you is this.
Well, you had a judge show. You were also a real judge.
I was a real judge. I was an elected county judge. Here's the problem. When you've got a detainer and the locals are releasing someone, although the feds have a detainer there, the issue is whether or not the feds can force the locals to do their job. The answer is very simple. They can't. But what the federal government can do now...
Aren't they aiding and abetting in the breaking of law?
Well, you know, that's an argument you can make, but you're not going to win that argument. What you can argue...
So they can release people that are criminal aliens that have broken American law and just release them, and they're not held accountable.
You know why? Because there's a sovereignty that they have. But this is what we can do to stop them. They have to give us the information. They can say, we're not going to give you information. We're sovereign. We're not going to give you anything that tells you that they're illegal, and we're not going to ask them if they're illegal. But Congress can force them, and we can stop the money going to them, and they have to tell us. That's the end of it.
Sheriff Clarke, I know you met with Donald Trump. I don't know if you talked about a position. Anything you want to share with us, I'd love to hear. But maybe Sheriff Clarke put him in charge of ICE, and I can see a lot of good things happening. I don't think you'd let this go uncontested.
No, I wouldn't. First of all, Donald Trump, President-elect Donald Trump, owes me nothing. I supported him because I thought he was best for the country. But look, we're at a crossroads. Either we're going to be a sovereign nation and enforce our borders, or we're not. The problem is getting worse. We have to have zero tolerance for people illegally crossing the border, coming into the country, and setting up residence. Now, the cities are not going to comply. And as the judge indicated, they really don't have to. But under federal statute 8, United States Code statute 1324, there are criminal sanctions for people who provide safe havens and harbor people that they know are in the country illegally. We don't enforce that law. So we don't need, you know, Congress will deal with immigration reform when they come back, but there are things on the statutes that we have to enforce.
We have the
Otherwise,
ability to go into the sanctuary city and remove them?
If we know about them.
If we know about them. Alan West, Colonel, good to see you. You met with the president-elect. How did that go?
It went very well. I actually met with the vice president-elect and his national security team of Lieutenant General Flynn and KT McFarland.
And anything going to come of that you can share with me?
Well, just proud to continue to serve this great nation as 4 generations of my family have done. So we'll see what comes of that.
What do you make of this issue of sanctuary cities? How should it be handled?
Well, very simply, I mean, this is not being in defiance of the Trump administration. It's being in defiance of this constitutional republic and this rule of law. And as Sheriff Clarke stated, if we don't have sovereignty as a nation, regardless of what you see happening at the city, then we have a breakdown of the rule of law and this establishment of this republic. So I think that Representative John Culberson of Texas has already created a means by which we can cease the funding to these cities because they cannot continue to act in defiance. And when you talk about political optics, this is not a winning argument for the Democrat Party whatsoever.
Well, the amazing part of this, Sean, is that they say that these laws are unjust federal immigration laws and that they're bigoted. Here's the bottom line. These are federal laws. They are meant to be followed. We have the ability to enforce those laws, and it's about time we did. President-elect Trump will do that. Obama did not. He protected them. Rahm Emanuel has protected them. And Rahm Emanuel right now is running one of the most violent cities in the country.
I would like to know if the president-elect said, hey, what are you going to do to stop innocent people from getting shot every day in your city?
And so what we've got to do when we look at national security in this country, we have to try to understand who these immigrants are, who we're protecting, and are these refugees now part of the problem in this country?
Sheriff?
Sean, sanctuary cities are havens for criminal activity because criminals prey on people illegally in the country, knowing they cannot report that to the police for fear of being found to be in the country illegally themselves. So we have underreported and unreported crime, serious crime, rapes, domestic violence, child abuse as a result of sanctuary cities.
You know, Colonel West, I just can't understand. To me, and I think the average person, hearing that cities can defy federal law this way and help those that don't respect our laws and sovereignty, even criminal aliens that are in their jails and get released and don't get sent back. It's mind-numbing. They're willing to gamble with the lives and the safety of the American people. I don't understand it.
Well, you're absolutely right, and it shows you where their priorities and their concerns are. Go and talk to this Kate Steinle's family out in San Francisco and ask them how they feel about this. And I'm sure that that story is repeated all across the United States of America. And when you look at the Democrat Party, it is actually, as Representative Tim Ryan said, it is now becoming a party of coastal urban elites, and they do not understand that the American people want to be safe and secure. And this is a serious policy issue. It's a serious rule of law issue. And if these mayors decide that they don't want to be part of this constitutional republic, there are means by which they can be held accountable.
Good to see all of you, and all three of you I could see in a Trump administration. I'm just guessing. I have no insight. Nobody tells me anything. You're all three my friends, and none of you tell me a thing. I'm like, really? That's how deep our friendship is? And look,
You
you're all
probably know
quiet.
more than we do.
All right, coming up, we need your help.